Do you believe that the Titans should be forced to forfeit some games or penalized in some way, given the fact that they did break the NFL's COVID protocols?
Not yet. The reason why I say that is that although I'm fully aware that the NFL had informed them, basically banning them from, intermingling with one another because of a potential positive test or whatever, they were not sure whether or not games they would be called upon to actually play games, so they were doing what they could to work out. If they were partying or something like that, some house partying at the club or doing something incredibly irresponsible in that regard, I would feel totally differently. I'm not saying that they were responsible in this case, because obviously that was not the case, but when the specter of having to go out there and perform is still hovering over you within a matter of days, and your mentality is, I got to do what I got to do to be prepared to play, because you were thinking you were feeling fine and everything was all right, etc., then I think that, you know what, okay, this happened. You receive your stern warning. Next time you will have to forfeit a game, and you go from there. But I wouldn't bring down the heavy hammer on them as if they were out mingling and partying and all of that other stuff. The fact that they were working out, and that's why they were together, I think that, I wouldn't say it requires a level of empathy or anything like that, but it would be nice to display it in this particular case, because they still had a job to do. For all they knew, at a moment's notice, they were going to be called upon to play. And obviously, you've got careers on the line where one game, one play could cost you your career. And so you take those things into consideration. I can understand the level of urgency that they may have felt at that particular moment in time. It still wasn't wise. It still wasn't a wise thing to do, and I'm certainly not trying to applaud it. I'm just saying, to completely excoriate them and call for an immediate forfeiture, I would not go that far on a first offense. Now that we see what the situation is, that's an entirely different ball game. And if it happened again, then obviously forfeiture would be appropriate.
I think you got to forfeit so it doesn't happen again. Look, how many positive tests have the Pittsburgh Steelers had? They haven't had any. 0, right? And yet they have to give up a bye week later on to have the bye week now so that they can play a billion weeks in a row to accommodate the Titans in the NFL, because the Titans couldn't follow the rules. Now, look, you don't know whether it's causal or it's just correlated, meaning, correlation does not necessarily equal causation, right? So there's an outbreak of COVID, and they're told to socially distance, and they don't, and they have a practice anyway, and then there's a greater outbreak of COVID. Maybe it would have been an outbreak anyway. Maybe it had already spread. That's impossible to know. But that's not the point. They didn't follow the rules, even if they felt it put them at a competitive disadvantage. Tough. As I keep saying, the enemy is the perfect of the good right now. You want to get through this season, everyone's going to have to make some sacrifices. And it's one thing to say that includes the Steelers, give up the bye week and move. It's another thing to tell that to the Steelers after the Titans didn't follow the rules. In tackle football, if you have a practice and there's a highly contagious and incurable disease, by the way, for which there's no vaccination, whether or not it's incurable, there's no vaccination for it, and then the outbreak gets worse, I think it's reasonable for people to at least guess, hey, maybe that had something to do with the fact that you didn't follow the protocols. You need to send a powerful message to the league right now. We're at the quarter pole, but not everyone's played 4 games. You need to send a powerful message to the rest of the league right now, or they should have at least.
Well,
this stuff won't be tolerated. There's a serious consequence to it. If you want to get through this season, I think the league missed an opportunity here.
Ryan, before you chime in, let me say this real quick. Number one, the rules that the Steelers and practically every other team was following that particular day before was when something new was instituted. So let's take that into consideration. That's a different situation. But number two, and I'm not speaking, I'm asking this question by passing it to you, Ryan. I'm under the impression, based on the athletes that I've interviewed throughout the years, that they would rather lose playing than win by not playing. Meaning that, okay, we get a win because it's a forfeit. We don't play, we don't get to participate at all. So we just get the win. They'd rather be out there playing if they can.
No, they'd rather be out there playing, but if it's we can get a win and also keep our bye week, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would have chosen that. I think Ben Roethlisberger would have chosen that, because he's a guy that think that his team was messed over in this situation. The hard part about this is, if no games are played, if the Titans don't play the Steelers, then people don't get paid. right? And so that's the hard part about saying, okay, there should be games forfeited. But I do think there should be game checks forfeited. If there's going to be a situation to where you have to play this game in order for everybody else to get their money, because see, I don't want the Pittsburgh Steelers penalized out of getting their money, because guys that opted into this season and took this chance and that are doing the right things to have 0 positive COVID tests, they should get paid. So if not playing the Tennessee Titans and just getting that win is going to keep them from having opportunities to continue to build generational money for their families, then I don't want that. But I do think that the Tennessee Titans should get to play the game. They should get an opportunity to get into the playoffs. But the money that they would make that day should be gone. And I'm not talking about just do a blanket fine to where everybody's fined $10,000, right? Because $10,000 to Ryan Tannehill is going to be different than $10,000 to Christian Fulton, the second-round pick from LSU. So I think that everybody who was involved in that practice should lose a game check. Yes, you get to play, but you don't get a game check. Because I agree with Max in the sense that there is some sort of message that needs to be sent about following protocols. There's some sort of message that needs to be sent about the brotherhood that we are supposed to be, and that at least knowing in this is not like a normal game injury. This is, you have to protect yourself in order to protect your teammates, in order to protect the rest of your brothers in the NFL. You know, they're playing this thing, this all in this together thing for the NFL, that it takes everybody to fix this. The only all in this together I see in Tennessee is from High School Musical with Vanessa Hudgens and Zac Efron. And that was a song that they sang, because they are not taking care of everyone else in the league. I think it was irresponsible. I think to even try to call the Tennessee Titans execs and figure out wiggle room to work around this was wrong. And they are not taking this as seriously as it needs to be taken.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.